God, that last raid pissed me off so damn bad in Legion. It pissed me off so damn bad because I was like, yeah, we're gonna fight Sargeras. Oh, we're not. Yeah, that's a good question. Green Jesus was giving an X and where to go. Who knows? Because because you know we have to wait. We have to wait half a year just for World of Warcraft to turn the freaking page on its story in current retail WoW. That's my biggest problem with the story. And this is another reason why I like vanilla, is because you craft the story yourself from the events that are happening around you and whatever, and you fill out these quests because you're a freaking adventurer, and it's not about everybody else around you, it's about your journey. You know? That's the other great... This, I just figured it out. This right here is where vanilla just about trumped everything else except Burning Crusade. Okay? Because Burning Crusade still did this. The story of vanilla World of Warcraft, wasn't what's Thrall doing, what's Sylvanas doing, what's Anduin doing, what's anybody doing. It wasn't that. That wasn't the story of vanilla WoW. And there was a story. You were the story. It was about your journey from lowly adventurer to champion. It was you were the story. You were the story. How you progressed, how you gathered up this small army and fought these great threats. You know, like you went into the mountain and you fought a dragon, a freaking fire elemental. You went out into the freaking desert to stab an old god in his eyeball. You braved the plague lands to go fight a lich. You know? You were the story. You, the player. You know? You didn't have to, this game wasn't telling us. We didn't need this game to tell us. What's up, Rocket Queen? How you doing? We didn't need this game to tell us we were champions and we were adventurers. Because we felt it. Because we experienced it. Because the journey was, I said this before, the journey is the experience and the experience is the journey. That was the beautiful thing about World of Warcraft. We didn't need to be told that we were champions because we felt it. And we didn't just feel it. We earned it. Okay? We earned it. We made the journey. We did the leveling. We found the gear. We killed these threats. We braved the dungeons. We stepped into those raids and we fought these massive world-threatening threats. We became the champions by our own means. We didn't need the game to tell us that. And you know what? It didn't. Vanilla didn't do that, man. And that is one of the greatest things about it. That was the great thing about it, you know. And I will say this: it's okay that Final Fantasy XIV, and see some people might say, well, Final Fantasy XIV, so you know, says all the time how you're the mighty warrior of light. Yes, and then there's a point to that, because that is a trope. That is a trope of Final Fantasy. These champions, these saviors that come from obscurity and out of nowhere that are supposed to save you. In A Realm Reborn, it kind of was the traditional Final Fantasy story, akin to, like, say, Final Fantasy I. You know, these unknown warriors that just, like, come the hell out of nowhere to fulfill this prophecy, so to speak, to save the world. And in A Realm Reborn, you were pretty much given that. You were pretty much given the Final Fantasy trope story. Heaven's Word, things got complicated, you know? It wasn't about just saving the world. It was you were now getting involved in a war between two things that got started because of some bullshit, and it escalated out of control, and now you were fighting this dragon that just hated you because of who you were. When you turned to find out that it was the whole freaking church behind everything, and now you have church corruption and everything else, and Knights of the Nine and Ultimate End and all that shit, and it was freaking amazing. It was so good. That's when it got complicated. Stormblood. Now you're fighting the Garlean Empire, probably at one of its strongest points, and they're just hammering you. And you're fighting, and it's a story about overcoming an oppressive army. And even then, at the end, it just still didn't feel like you won, but it still felt like you gained some kind of a measure of a small victory. And then you get into Shadowbringers. Then for the first time, really for the first big long time since Heavensward, because you got a little bit of it in Heavensward, in Shadowbringers, then they did the greatest thing ever that I've ever seen in a Final Fantasy story. And they introduced a actual, true, morally gray villain. Because you understood where Emmett Selk was coming from. You understood. Everybody understood. But that and you knew he believed in what he was doing. You understood why he was going to these means, but that doesn't mean that we stood for it, because his means were heinous and his means were genocidal. Gosh, you know, it really did, you know. That was the beautiful thing about it. And so while this game is calling us, you know, while 14 is calling us warriors of light, champions, stuff like that, it felt right because it was set within the means of its storytelling, and that was the Final Fantasy story trope. But see, World of Warcraft wasn't like that, and that's what made it great, especially vanilla right here. We didn't need the game to call us champions because we experienced it. And even in 14, you still experienced it, but the story, while it included other characters, the reason why it worked, the reason why being called a champion in 14 worked, is because you were still the story. You were still the story. The story was still about you. Yes, it had all these other characters, but the story was still you, the Warrior of Light. This is, hell, we said it to MXL. This is our story. And there's all kinds of multiple things that can mean, but it's true. The story of Final Fantasy XIV is you, the player. The story of Vanilla WoW is you, the player. Two stories, two different stories, two different games, two different meanings, but the point still remains. Vanilla, the journey, is the experience. The experience is the journey. It's your story. Your journey is your story. In Final Fantasy XIV, you are the warrior of light. This is your story. There you go. There you go, man. And that's why these two MMOs are so freaking great, in my opinion, from a storytelling perspective. Because they tell two wonderful stories. One, set up for your own interpretation. Two, something that's just beautifully weaved together, that it comes to this massive climactic point, to the traditional trope of good versus evil, to seeing corruption from two different sides and you being caught in the middle, to this massive, overwhelming wave of opposition, to this actual moral gray area, but you still standing up for your beliefs. Two great stories, two different games, and that's why I'm saying we can enjoy both. You can enjoy both. You know, that's what I'm saying. Rant over.